Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is week 3. We've been on a
Yeah.
roll.
Yay. Time
Yes,
is flying by. It's
yes.
crazy.
Almost at the end of June. And if you're just joining us, this is me, myself, Empowered RN with Claudia Garcia. And we're doing a YouTube live series, which we meet every and each Thursday at this time, 12 p.m. Eastern. And we're talking about booking more clients for the solo entrepreneur, the client series. So if you're running a business, thinking about running a business right now, and you're doing it by yourself, need more clients, this is where you need to be. All
That's
right.
right. In today's topic, we're going to actually talk about how you can keep clients. So, if you have an
Mhm.
existing client base, we want to make sure that they stay with you long term and that you're able to bring them back for new services. So, that's what we're talking about today. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. I see Sharice is here. I'm not sure you're seeing the chat too, Claudia. See Sharice Shandel is here. Welcome, Sharice. Remember, if you have any comments, any questions that you have, feel free to post them in the chat and share with somebody who may need to hear this information. All right, we're all here to learn. All right, so last week we had a talk and we were talking about booking more clients and we're dealing with marketing. What else were we talking about?
Last week, they're all kind of meshing together. So,
Yeah.
how did
Yes. So we were
I
talking about
remember?
with LinkedIn and we were talking about
Oh,
LinkedIn and how to get the
LinkedIn.
clients and where to
Yeah.
show up. So we know where to show up right now, where to go, how to get those clients, but we need to look at how can we keep them.
Yeah.
But is it really important? It may sound like, we need to keep clients, but why is it important?
hmm Yeah, and actually, that might sort of be like an obvious thing, like we're
Yeah.
going to keep the clients, but that's not always the case, right? So if you're
Hmm.
offering services, maybe a coaching program, or consulting for X amount of weeks, maybe, 8 to 12 weeks, when that is over, what are you doing with the client then, right? So this is about keeping the clients coming back for more and then also retaining you for more services. So,
Hmm.
are they renewing after the 12 weeks because you wowed them, right? Or
Right.
and then how do you get them to come back for more services when you then launch a second program that might be really great for them?
Yeah.
So the retention piece is super important.
Hmm.
um, for me, I learned the hard way. Being in business for 15 plus years, I serviced hundreds of providers in healthcare, and I would go from group to group, provider to provider throughout the years, and I never kept an email list.
Oh.
So I actually would have to remember to, like, if I hadn't heard from them or I hadn't spoken to them, I would then have to remember to call them and say, "Hey, do you still
Mhm.
need this service or that service? And how can I help you?" Like that, and then having to remember who you called last. It was just not a good thing in the beginning for me because I had no idea how
Yeah.
to create a retention system. And actually, I would call it now a client journey
Right.
process.
Yeah.
So, what about you? How have you done it through the years?
So I'm glad you mentioned email listing. I like that format where you have an email where you can keep up to date with each page. Not patient, I'm a nurse, sorry,
Yeah.
with each client, with each client. Not only just email listing, but I utilize emails are utilized, and I also use online sites like for my nurses, Telegram, where we can meet with each others
Mm,
because sometimes time differences get the best because
mhm.
I'm meeting with nurses from all over the world. So I have an area where everybody comes together and just direct messages that are personalized to different persons based on where they are in their journey. So email listing is definitely one, utilizing either Telegram, WhatsApp grouping, and also formulating like newsletters. If you can't get them
Mhm.
and if they're busy at that moment, that email listing with newsletters helps them to keep abreast and know that, hey, I still remember you, but I have information tailored to meet you.
Yeah, I think that's important. So, just finding a way to keep an ongoing relationship, even if
Mhm.
you're not going to be calling them every week. you may not have something to offer them weekly, right? So it just really depends on your service and your product. But keeping in touch is super important. So the email list, which I didn't discover until years after I started my business, is definitely the easiest way to stay in touch with them and keep yourself top of mind with them, right?
Right.
So, but you also mentioned newsletters, so that's
Yes.
a little bit more about keeping them, reminding them that you're the expert in this specific area. So when they have a need or a
Mhm.
pain point, they think about you because they
Yes.
see you're addressing these problems and these issues and you're coming up with solutions in your newsletter and you're giving all that free value that and now you have YouTube, right? So I mean,
Right.
that's another way of retaining your clients. I mean, it's not as personal, but I'm sure that, do you currently in your email list even send them your YouTube videos?
Yes, I use
I do
YouTube
too.
videos and I notify them with
Yep.
regards to that also. And not
Yeah.
only it helps to keep retaining the clients that you have, but YouTube gives a wider reach. So you're retaining your clients and you're reaching more persons also. But one question I have to ask, so what about persons who
I
like
think.
you're hearing me? I think Claudia's screen is from you're hearing me right now?
Oh, am I back?
Yes, you're
Am I
back.
back?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I live in the country in Texas, and sometimes our internet is really great, and then sometimes it's not so great. So bear with me. I will jump right back on if I freeze. Just keep on going.
I'll keep on going. No problem. But the question I had to ask you that, like, there are different industries that we have. You have the service base and you have the product base. So, what about the person who does not like have a service but just offers a product that they receive the product and then that's it? What are the retention strategies for that person?
Sure. So I think it's going to be the same thing because you're going to remind your clients that are happy to leave
Mhm.
reviews, to send a discount or coupon code to a friend, or if they already bought the product for themselves but they were really happy, then
Mhm.
if you stay again on in front of them with an email,
Mhm.
um you're reminding them of your product, and they might buy it for somebody else. This is great during the holidays. So if you already bought the product, let's just say it's one product, but you already bought that product and you were happy with it, then if you're still constantly hearing from that client, or not
Mhm.
client, but that anyways, that product owner,
Yeah.
then you remember, hey, I'm going to buy this for, all my friends, or, or colleagues, or whatever it is that you're selling. Maybe you're a book. I guess a book author would be a good example. You have one
Mhm.
book, you're selling just the one book. But you still want to keep in touch with all of those people that ever purchased from you. And why would you do it is, I think, for referrals and for them to come back when you're hosting an event, or it also opens the doors for you to go and be a speaker or a podcast guest. So there's so many reasons why you should stay in touch with those who have purchased from you.
Right. And the other thing that I would like to mention too is that especially in my business, when if you have email listing, newsletters, and you have that personalized contact reaching out to individuals saying, how are you? How has everything been? Where are you in the process? They also may see stuff out there and say, hey, I think you should speak on this. And it gives you added information and also added reach to other persons. And I like the importance of a customized feedback that is tailored per person. I think
Yeah.
that helps with client relations to also make it sees that you're listening to them and that you actually care about them. And I think customer service trumps in every single thing. And
Yeah.
once you have give them great customer service, they'll always keep coming back for more. And word of mouth that we don't normally speak about, like, is really, really still important in this day and age.
Yeah. I do want to say this, that if you don't have a good client journey,
Mhm.
it's not that hard to replace you, meaning
Yes.
that there comes another consultant right behind you that
Mhm.
does the same thing, that then gets in front of them and reminds them that they need this service again. right? So
Yes.
one of the services that I offered and still offer today is credentialing and contracting for private practices.
Mhm.
So let's say I did a project for them and it was a year-long project, and then it's over. I say my goodbyes and I don't keep them on a monthly retainer or something like that. Another consultant comes by, and when it's time for them to renew all of their contracts, why would they call me when this other consultant is in their face, right? Like,
Yes.
hey, hire me. I'm just as good as Claudia, if not even better, right? So you have to remember that if you don't keep that relationship up, you're going to be replaced, not
Mhm.
because they didn't like you and not because you didn't offer a good service, but simply because you just weren't they weren't thinking about you
Yeah.
because you forgot to think about them. Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And it happens to all of us. So I'm talking from experience, and this was the biggest mistake in the beginning of my first 5 years of my business. It was constantly chasing a new client. So, and then, after the contract was over, I was going after another client, another client. It wasn't until later that I was like, wait a minute, I have the clients.
Mhm.
I have to keep these clients and I have to go deep with these clients. Oops, offering them, other services. And that's what I ended up doing. So I started it with healthcare marketing and then offering consulting for growth,
Right.
and then staffing, because as they grew, they needed more staff. So I was able to then retain and keep those clients. And I actually have clients that are working with me today that have been with
Mhm.
me for like a decade.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, you have to keep your feet on the ground. You have to be constantly there, and constantly being seen because guess what? There are more persons out there. And I
Yeah.
like the fact that you talked about the different strategies that we can use. You listed email listing. What are some other strategies that you can use for like client retention?
Yeah, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. LinkedIn is a great place to stay in touch with your clients. Yeah, that's always great. Thinking about them, even when you're not looking to get their business. So,
Mhm.
for example, let's just say, and I'm going to use this example just because I was just talking about it. But I'm servicing a private practice. The contract's over, but I stay in touch with them on LinkedIn. I can often shoot them over, an article about something that's really important that could help their practice. I can send them a referral to other people that maybe they have a software or other marketing services that I don't offer that I think they would benefit from. So it's sort of like looking out for them still, even
Mhm.
though I'm not actively servicing that client at the
Mhm.
time, because they're like, oh, she's always referring to us. And guess what? They'll refer you to their friends. So
Right.
I think LinkedIn is a no brainer. So stay in touch with your clients on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. And yeah, and call them.
Call them,
Pick up
yeah.
the phone and go visit them if they're local. In my
Yeah.
case, none of my clients are local anymore.
And you can offer incentives to them too, special occasions. If you have that email list and you keep a personalized contact with them, especially it depends on the industry that you're into, especially remembering birthdays, special
Mhm.
occasions. For me, I deal with nurses. So, I'll send out something Happy Nurses Week, and here are some
Yeah.
freebies that we're giving away for that. And I think that
Yeah.
helps. And also, that's another question. Client feedback, very important, especially
Yeah.
reviews.
Mhm.
What about that client who is not happy and disgruntled? What are your experiences with that? Have you had that before?
Yeah, so I had a client that was not happy with so I offering staffing, and they weren't happy with this first original person I sent them. They said they didn't have enough experience. So then we got them somebody else, and then it was like sort of the same thing. They don't have enough experience, but they did meet the qualifications, requirements, everything that needed just to get them in the door, just to get an interview.
Mhm.
So I started to uncover that it really wasn't the people we were sending over, but actually the practice had some broken systems
Right.
that actually set the employees up for failure because they had no process. So people were going in there and they weren't being trained. They weren't, everything was confusing and figure it out. The training was figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. And
Mhm.
so the client wasn't happy. And so I it just didn't sit right with me, even though I knew it was not the candidates, but rather it was the broken processes. I've been doing this for so long. And I get feedback from the candidates, like what's happening in the practice.
Mhm.
Um, I just offered to consult them to build out their process. So I
Right.
said, stop hiring people. You have a revolving door because there are broken systems in the practice. Let's fix these first
Hmm.
and then bring the people in, because good people won't stay in your chaos. Like they just
Yeah.
won't. And also they don't thrive in that. So you aren't going to get the best out of people. It doesn't matter how qualified they are.
Right.
So yeah, I've had, so it's about how can I make them happy, but find out truly what is the core reason. Like what is, you got to dig deep, because it's
Mhm.
usually not that your service isn't working, is that there's something broken, right? And what is it? Is it on their end? Is it on your end? And then come together and find a solution. But don't leave your customers ever unsatisfied. Like I wouldn't do that. So
Yeah.
I rather offer up the help. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the customer is always first. And I had an experience too with regards to that.
Uh-huh.
I had engagement with some clients, and these were some nurses, and we had some opportunities for them. So one person did send all the requirements that were requested,
Uh-huh.
and we took some time in because it was a large amount of persons that responded, didn't expect that. So, some persons did not get like that feedback immediately. So the person reached out to me with a detailed email and, called me some names and all of that. But
Wow.
I understand that a lot of times it's a breakdown in miscommunication. And instead
Yeah.
of like saying, hey, we didn't like this or appreciate this, and I said, can we just start over? Let's start from the beginning, customized call. I said, what happened? Let's see where the breakdown was. And then we
Yeah.
fix that out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just communication and miscommunication on both parts, emotions getting too, but at the end of the day, that
Yeah.
customer, I always make sure that they are okay and that they are satisfied. It keeps them coming back, and they're going to use word of mouth, which I love.
Yeah.
Because when they say that she dealt with me good, she's to her word, I know that they're going to speak about me when they go to other persons. Similar with
Yeah,
that.
I think that's a great example. I think
Yeah,
the customer is always right, even when we know they're not.
right.
And
Yeah.
that's something you learn like early. If you ever, I worked at Nordstrom's in my early 20s, and it's like
Hmm.
the best training ever, customer service training. Like if you want good customer service training, go work at Nordstrom's.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so it's trying to make the person happy. And sometimes I find that people react
Hmm.
emotionally and then they're over it,
Right.
right? So step away from it and then call them and then talk to them, and usually they're over it. Usually
Yeah.
they're like, oh, okay, like, oh, you can help me, oh, you can fix it, oh, I didn't know. So
Hmm.
there's there's always a way to make things right, and that's the best way to keep your clients happy and coming back for more.
Right. You're not going to make everybody happy, but you can at least try.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
try. You
Yeah.
can try.
So I strongly believe in customer service. And even for me, when I enter business and business places, customer service is something that I look at. I look at how you speak to your customers, how you engage. If I send you an email, how do you respond to me? And do you respond to me? And do you ensure that my needs are met? And if I see that, I then apply that to the business that I'm running. And I think that's something that we as solo entrepreneurs can do also. Always keep the customer first and the client first.
Yeah. And I think what's most important is just creating your own process, your own client journey process, so that you're not missing any of those steps, especially as you're scaling and you
Mhm.
find yourself with a lot of clients. You should hire some help, because if you're a solopreneur, you can't do
Mhm.
it all well, right?
Right.
So hire some help, but also just track that journey so that you make sure that you're doing a good job.
Right. So tracking journey is very important. And I like what you say about that customized support, making sure that the needs are met and making sure that they understand that this is tailored to you. Same time, you just know that this is just, formality. So it does help when you tailor it towards the
Yeah.
individual. But what about sometimes when you have your businesses and you have where they can leave reviews and you get that nasty review that is left online? How do you handle that?
I actually have never had a nasty review
Mhm.
online, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've had clients that have had, maybe got one bad Yelp review and they simply
Mhm.
respond. I think if it's something like that, you should respond. You should
Yeah.
respond to the review and you should make it right if it was your fault or um but yeah, I haven't, thank God I haven't had that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you do get the review, I think it's very important too that you assess what the review says. Sometimes you see just formalities sent out, but it can be something that is quite concerning and maybe something that is in your organization that actually needs fixing. So that's an area of importance too.
So one way that you can avoid bad reviews is by
Mhm.
actually getting yourself reviewed, like having an asking them for a personal review so that they can actually offload that information to you, right?
Yes.
So you
Mhm.
almost beat them to the punch by saying, "Hey, how did you enjoy our time together? Did
Mhm.
you did I meet all of your expectations?" And then get the feedback. And that way, if they're not happy, they're giving it to you versus the internet. So that's
Yes.
one strategy that I always tell my doctors, like find out
Mhm.
firsthand. Don't wait until they put it online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some persons do surveys too, like they ask you for feedback after you make a call or if you leave something online. I see some companies also, or solopreneurs do surveys, and I think that
Mhm.
helps too.
Yeah, surveys are a great way to catch
Mhm.
a customer that might not be happy and
Mhm.
also to see who is happy, right? So,
Right.
also, not every customer or client is for you, and that's okay. So, you may not want to keep all of them, but we're talking about retaining, your good customers and your good clients and keeping them happy. So, I think that back to I think what was your last question? I wanted to go back to that.
Like if you get a review online and it's not like a good review.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
Mhm.
think that going back to the quizzes, that's where my brain was, sorry.
Yeah.
Quizzes are really popular right now. Not quizzes, sorry, surveys are
Mhm.
really popular right now. And
Yeah.
a simple, 5 questions will give you a lot of information.
Mhm.
And I think it's important for us to get that feedback in order for us to improve on our services. So I number one is just like make this part of your client journey. Like
Yeah.
ask them. Yeah, ask them for the brutal truth,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, nothing is wrong with the truth. You can actually learn from it also. Yes, and I see some persons are online joining us. If you have questions, comments, drop them in the chat. What are your experience with client retention? And what are some other strategies that you have used that can help to retain clients? If you're just joining us, the Solo Entrepreneur Series, and we're looking at how to make your clients stay, how to make them rave about you and renew.
Yeah.
All right, so
Um, and one of the questions that I think we wanted to talk about was how do you avoid an unhappy client? And I think that being very clear on what your services include is really important. So you touched on miscommunication. So
yeah.
there are probably a lot of things we can avoid if we are over communicating
Mhm.
versus under communicating, and never assume that your client knows exactly what you mean by a vague email or
Yeah.
a vague agreement, but have those conversations with them to make sure they truly understand what they're getting and what they should get, what those expectations should be,
Mhm.
so that you're on the same page. And I think that's how you'll keep your clients happy, is that they don't have a lot of questions. They're not saying like, well, am I supposed to get this from Ava? Am I supposed to get that? Or didn't she promise me this or
Yeah.
that? And, all that confusion then creates this sort of unhappy client. So you want to make
Mhm.
sure that you're over delivering with communication.
Right. And it's always important, like, and understand you mentioned communication, clear cut communication. And I love what we spoke about in terms of keep them wanting more. Offer diversification of your products and your services, continually growing. Because guess what? If you don't, somebody else is showing up.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's somebody coming up right behind you. Yeah. So I think just to we're coming up on time, but
Yeah.
if you don't have a client or customer journey, I suggest
Mhm.
taking the time to write one out and
Right.
really evaluate where, where you're dropping the ball. Like, how am I losing clients? Because you shouldn't be losing them, and they should be coming back to you for more services.
Right.
So I would say write that out. I have one. If you guys want it, you guys can DM me on LinkedIn and I can share that with you. Otherwise, Ava, do you have one that you'd like to share?
For customer
Customer
journey,
journey or client journey?
not right now because mine is very tailored, different for different persons. Because it's
Yeah.
based on where when my nurses come, where they are right now. But if it's a general overview, I could definitely get one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So DM either one of us and we'll send
Mhm.
you sort of a generic one of what you
Right.
shouldn't miss and what you should look for and the different touch points so that you can stay in touch
Mhm.
with your client. One thing that's really helped me, and I know Ava, you mentioned the same thing, is just having a whole back end engine for your customers, meaning that you have that email already in place, automations in place, where you're able to track that communication between you and them. So you know that you have to call them, it's time to reach out to them. You want to make sure that it's easy for you to see, when was the last time I spoke to this client, right? So you're not going to remember all of this when you have 25 clients that you're
Right.
servicing on your own if you're a solopreneur. By then you should have already hired. I keep going back to that. Solopreneur does not mean you need to be completely solo. You need help. But yeah, so having that tracking system. Some people use Uptick. I
Mhm.
don't use Uptick, but I heard it's really great. In that, I guess, tracks sort of like your to dos with each client. I have a back office, and so I tend to just have put them through an actual journey
Right.
now. I don't do it the way I used to do it.
I think as
Yeah.
the load
So,
increases, you definitely need to add more help and you definitely need to add more stuff and definitely think about automation too, because doing it
yeah.
alone doesn't help. And that can lead to more miscommunication too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And also don't take on more clients than you can handle.
Yeah.
Because actually you can destroy your business.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I could take on one more. Well, can you? And if you don't have a client journey, you don't really actually know if you can handle it, because you have to, you got to look at, where is each client in the journey? How
Mhm.
many hours do you have to put towards each client? Yeah, I just had two proposals that were answered, and I was looking at them and I was like really thinking like, I would love to have both these clients, but can I truly give both this same attention or give them both my best in this season? So you have
Yeah.
to look at what the requirements are and then where each person is in the journey, right? So
Yeah.
if you're a coach or a consultant,
Mhm.
yeah, try not to overdo it because you'll ruin your business.
That is true. So as we talked about the client journey, that's something that I said I use, but it's more individualized. I have like a board that I use. Every nurse that I speak to, notation, and sometimes I use like a note recording thing just to see where we're at. If I meet with you again, when should I be following up? I give you like expectations when we meet again, where we should be, and where I always have to try to remember where we left off. So when I meet again, hey, this is what we spoke about the last time. Where are we now in terms of this? And that helps me to keep on track and have that client journey as we spoke about. But I like when you touched on the point talking about not taking on too much. Sometimes we have the belief that we can help everybody and we can
Yeah.
service everybody, and it's not true. And it's okay. I've had the experience where I had to refer some persons to other individuals or agencies that could help them because I really could not take on the load.
Yeah, I think that that's smart. I
Mhm.
think that's also part of keeping clients. So if there's a piece, also there's this really quick, but like my clients, they will ask for services I don't offer.
Right.
And I could probably figure it out and do it for them. But,
Yes.
will I do a great job? I don't know, because maybe it's my first time doing it, right? So I would rather refer them out to somebody that I trust and keep that client happy than to say, "Oh, I'll do it for you because because I need the money." Yeah, no, you don't
Right.
need the money that bad because you're going to ruin things. So yeah, that's all scarcity mindset. When you think like you need
Yes.
it all. I need it all. I need to keep everything for myself. That is scarcity mindset. That's not abundance mindset. So,
Yeah.
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 All right. So I think we're coming to a close. Did anyone
Yes.
have any questions? I can't see the questions on
No,
there.
I'm not seeing any questions at the moment. If you guys have any questions for us, you can post them in the chat. I guess we're clear as crystal. Everybody is
Yeah.
good. No
Yeah.
questions at the moment. But I think we've covered all the bases in terms of client retention, strategies, how to keep them, beats on the ground, being present, taking up that phone, having a client journey. If I left out anything, you can jump in. Anything
Yeah,
that
no, I
we
think you covered it all. Just over communicate, keep in touch, have a process, have them on an email list,
Mhm.
personalize calls and personalize emails as well. Check-ins, have your check-ins, know when those are. You can think of it like this. If you've ever been a leader or a manager, you
Mhm.
have, what you call like the employee reviews. So you got to meet with them 30, 60, 90, right? Do the
Yes.
same thing with your client. So put them on a client review. You're reviewing them and they're reviewing you. So then you have that communication between you two already on the calendar. Like send the invite now. So when
Yes.
I was leading a big team, when I'd hire them, I'd have my assistant put all the reviews on the calendar ahead of time. So I wasn't like sending them a message like, "Hey, it's time for a 60-day review. I'm going to put on the calendar now." If I did that, it was just a hot mess. So instead, we if you got onboarded, you also
Mhm.
had a series of dates that were already on your calendar of when you were going to meet with me.
Yes.
So do that with your client and just keep it simple.
Yes.
That's it. But before we close, I'd like to share about the workshop, if that's okay.
Yes. Yes. Let
Oh,
me share the workshop. So
okay.
Claudia has an upcoming workshop, and we're going to share it here for those that are interested to attend.
Yeah, so next week, Wednesday, June 25th at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is noon Eastern Standard Time, I am going to have a live LinkedIn workshop for healthcare professionals. It is going to be on Zoom. So if you guys are interested, please, it's not a clickable link on the screen.
Yes.
YouTube's not there yet. But if you guys would like that link to join, please send us a DM on LinkedIn or here on actually we could just post the link below in the comments to make it
Right.
simple.
Yeah.
But if you're a healthcare professional, you're still wondering like, how do I use LinkedIn so that I can attract new clients and new opportunities? I am going to tell you how to do that on Wednesday, June 25th at 11 a.m. I hope to see you guys there, and I'm excited to share with you guys how I've been able to generate multiple seven figures using LinkedIn and getting clients, hanging out with my clients, keeping in touch with my clients, as we were talking about. But I use the tool. It's actually my number one business tool, and I'm going to teach you guys how to use it.
All right. So this is for healthcare professionals. What about those that are non-healthcare professionals?
You can join us. The information is, it's transferable information. It's gonna be the same type of information. I just work with those in healthcare. It's my niche. So we're making it for healthcare entrepreneurs. But you absolutely can, if you're in finance, if you're an attorney, if you're any kind of business and service-based business professional, I would say. So I
Yeah.
don't know how well plumbers do on LinkedIn. I don't know, but maybe we could get you LinkedIn famous in your
All right.
area.
What's the time zones? They need the time zone.
Oh, it's 11 a.m. Central Standard Time and noon Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. All right. So the link will be posted here on YouTube for those that are watching. And if you, we're going to post it here after we're finished when Claudia sends me the link. So those that are interested, you can just click on the link and register. And that's next week, Wednesday at 11 a.m. All right.
Awesome. See you guys there. We're so happy to have you here with us today. If you're
Yes.
watching the recorded video, we appreciate you. And it's
And
just fun hanging out with you on Thursday morning. So I hope that you join us next week, same time.
same
And
place.
yeah, we look
Yeah.
forward to your comments below. Please let us know that you hung out with us today.
Yes.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.